I'm used to showering with the door open, obviously, when I'm alone. I'm not that weird. I did it because I want to feel like I'm outside, like I'm showering in the garden, say. And especially in Greece, it's a shame to be cooped up in those four walls and not enjoy the sunshine, even if it's just through a window or a balcony door. Maybe if I had a bathtub with glass all around, I wouldn't feel this need. But then I wouldn't be here. I'd be enjoying my millions. This is a quirk I've picked up lately, and it got me thinking about how many times I've gone against the rules and the shoes in my life. In fact, when I decided to share this weirdness with the world out there, I wrote as an intro that it was day 17,016 of refusing to follow social norms. First off, yeah, up to that day I wrote it, I had actually lived 17,015 days. Of course, I didn't calculate it myself. What do you have AI for? And second, my message reached more eyes than the others. Probably I thought there are quite a few out there who would love to break some of their own chains. So I decided to talk a bit more about my whole philosophy on social shoulds and basically on life itself. Because somewhere in my student years, I realized I wasn't built for a normal life. At this point, I need to tell you that you are listening or watching on YouTube a voice letter from Greece, the audiobook version of my newsletter that I send to my blog subscribers. Since reading is faster than listening to my awful English accent, consider subscribing to receive the transcript of this letter in your inbox 1 hour before it goes live on YouTube and podcast platforms. The moment I realized normal life isn't for me. Up until I got into university, my life was pretty much like most people's: kindergarten, elementary, middle school, high school, and then university entrance exams like clockwork. There was no other path. Up to that point, everything was mapped out. The first detour I could have taken would have been if I didn't get into university. Luckily for me, I got into polytechnic, so what I felt back then was just that I had won another 5 years without having to find a job and learn to support myself. Bless my parents. Basically, I felt like my teenage years had gotten a life extension. But right there at Polytechnic, the next four-step program would kick in: university, army, job, pension. And that's when I first realized I wasn't made for that path. Even my school years weren't normal. As a kid, I can say school was generally fun for me. If you ask my parents, they'll tell you I couldn't wait to start kindergarten. That's why they even sent me early, irregularly, but the next year they switched me so I wouldn't see my classmates move up a grade while I stayed in the same one, since that's when I was supposed to start properly. Now that I say it, it's like I flunked the first year of kindergarten. Then elementary school was tough, since it was a pretty demanding school. Maybe because it was private, but from what I hear, it's still one of the strictest. Well, I don't remember those years with any particular nostalgia anyway. Middle school was definitely the first time I deviated from the normal path. And that's because I missed almost the entire second year after breaking my leg really badly. After 6 months in the hospital, I had missed the class entirely, and to pass the grade, I'd have to take all the subjects in September. I spent a nightmare summer studying in 100-degree heat while my friends were swimming, and me hobbling on crutches to the beach to get in the water. High school, though, was paradise. Maybe the best school years I had were as a teenager. Even though there was prep for university entrance exams, I can say that's when I started seeing the world differently. Every now and then I would catch glimpses that there was another path out there, but I stayed in my lane. School didn't just teach me math and history. In school, we had all kinds of kids, from straight A nerds to drugs and condoms tossed on the stairs we climbed to get to class. Good times. Some years, I was the attendance recorder, the top student in the class. To some, I was a nerd too. What excited me the most, though, wasn't the grades. It was how I secured the favor of the bad kids at school, the ones who ran things, in other words, in the yard and beyond. As an attendance recorder, I already had the teacher's favor. Now the challenge was to get the favor of my classmates who had, let's say, power. So I developed two tactics. One was to buy the favor I was after. Yeah, with money. Like it or not, some of those kids had power but no cash. They would often ask me for money to buy cigarettes, supposedly. It didn't take me long to spot this market gap. All I had to do was fill that need and boom, I had their protection, so to speak. The other tactic was to leverage my position. No need to go broke to get along with everyone. I just had to hide their absences so they wouldn't flunk the year. While some didn't need the money, others didn't want to set foot in class. They would beg me to skip recording their absence for certain hours. And to do that, the teacher couldn't notice. But I already had a great relationship with them since, besides being a good student, I was a good kid. Through these experiences, I learned there's a way for everything. I learned every person needs something and wants something. And I learned how to turn situations to my advantage. But up to that point, those decisions weren't, say, life or death. The first big decision in my life came around age 20. I spent 7 hours staring at the ceiling. The perks my family gave me as a chemical engineering student included a weekly allowance and a brand new car from year one. I wasn't independent, but I got around town more comfortably. I'm living large above the plebs, I thought. One summer, it's Friday, I'm out of money, and my buddies call to go to the beach for the weekend. Awesome, I think. Except I've got no gas for the car. So I figure I'll ask Dad for 2 weeks allowance in advance, so I don't miss out on a fun weekend. I'll figure it out later. Classic financial illiterate. But I hadn't counted on the innkeeper, as we say in Greece. Dad was adamant. You get your allowance on Sundays. You'll get it Sunday, and it'll be for the next week as always, he said. No matter what I said, I couldn't sway him. Now that I'm his age back then, of course I would do the same. But at 20, that was a wake-up call, as they say. I spent 7 hours staring at the ceiling. And there, on that white wall, now covered in marks from the ball I kept throwing in anger, I saw that I had to do something. Somehow I had to get what I was missing right then, just like my classmates were missing. Money. And as long as I didn't have my own money, I would never be free. Of course, I didn't go to the beach with my friends like the life script called for. My life had switched lanes. And right then and there, I decided that to make money, I wouldn't wait to graduate and find a job like the rest of the normal world. What if I dropped polytechnic and didn't become an engineer? I wouldn't say I felt guilty about the thought of leaving university crossing my mind for the first time. On one hand, sure, my family had made sacrifices for me to get in. There would definitely be some bitterness and disappointment from that decision. On the other, I didn't see that the decision had to be made right then. I could look for ways to make money while still a student. One didn't rule out the other. In reality, I hadn't even adopted the idea of not finishing my studies. I was just putting it on the side for a bit. It wouldn't be an immediate priority. Plus, I can't say the studies excited me. Especially the first year felt like an extension of high school. So since it didn't spark my interest, I figured I could always come back to it if whatever I tried failed. The value of money was unknown to me while I lived in my bubble. I wish I had realized earlier how important money is in life. Because, sure, as you get older, other things gain value, like the people around us. But to have a good life in old age, we need to chase what will give us that as early as possible. And that's none other than money. When I was little, like most kids, I had no sense of money's value. I didn't notice what others had that I didn't make comparisons, and I don't remember asking for stuff. Except computers. Maybe my parents are laughing now, just like I laugh when our daughter says she doesn't ask for things. What kid doesn't ask? But at least the things I remember asking for, I don't think were expensive. Anyway, when you are little, you just want to have fun with your friends. Slowly, the bug kicks in of what the neighbor has and why I don't. I also had zero obsession with cars as a boy. Nothing. Until my uncle got a BMW when I was around 17 and everything changed. From then on, I started dreaming about cars. And since, of course, I couldn't buy one myself, I would nag dad to get me one when I got into university, as if being a student automatically meant you'd have a car. I had to get into the university to realize I was getting too big for my britches. So, up to that point, I had no drive to make my own money. Whatever I asked for, I got. So, the instinct for easy money. Making my own money was more instinct than need. Sure, the wake up call of not being able to put gas in the car was the spark to start putting some plan into action, but it wasn't like I was out on the street. I had a few years left to graduate, and my allowance covered what I wanted, as long as my basic needs were met by my family. On the other hand, growing up around people who often gambled, easy money always intrigued me. Maybe picking up playing cards young cultivated that instinct, which made me switch paths in life a few years later. The last place I expected to feel financially dependent. The first time I felt financially free was the first day I won money at the casino playing blackjack. Up to then, the only money I had earned through my own effort was a 3-month, 3-hour gig at a call center when I was 19. But I never saw that money as freedom. I saw it as pocket money that I immediately turned into car rims. Sadly, like many young people back then, I was financially illiterate and had no clue about saving or investing. But I did see the casino money as the first step toward my financial independence, toward my financial freedom. Now you'll say, wait, at the casino, where so many ruin their lives? And yet, it wasn't random that I saw the casino that way. For months before I was old enough to enter, I had been researching online how to win at blackjack, how to count cards, and how to become a card counter. Because some things you become, and some things you are born with. I got there after the ceiling staring story where I realized how crucial it was to become financially dependent from my parents. Other ideas had crossed my mind for making money. At one point, I even ended up on the CIA website seeing they hire chemical engineers too. Maybe the only time I saw the engineering program as a stepping stone to something interesting. Anyway, no idea up to that point involved making money from the internet. We are talking 2002. I think hardly anyone saw the internet as a business back then, and probably nobody in Greece. Influenced though by successful blackjack players on TV around Christmas, and with a family lean toward gambling, I started researching how they did it. If they can do it, why not me? I wondered. So after a few months playing blackjack daily at the casino, I was now making my own money. Money that could support me, make me independent, completely free me, since I was earning it through my own skills. Until, of course, the casinos barred me. I saw life as a game with its own score. During the years I played blackjack professionally, some friends didn't understand what I was doing. I assume most even thought I would probably develop or already had a gambling problem. Anyway, I got them. I remember one Saturday at the cafe, I tell them I have to leave because new tables open at 1 p.m. and I want to grab a spot. A friend turns and asks, "Seriously, you have to go now?" I thought it was quite obvious I did. I knew I would make money. I might lose that day, but over time, I knew I would come out ahead, and exactly how much per hour. But for someone with no connection to gambling, and even less to how you can actually win at it, it sounded weird at best. Plus, we were at an age where we were mostly focused on having fun, while family support was still there. Very few friends back then saw life as a game where the score is in euros or dollars. Still, I hadn't fully realized it either. I was just thrilled I had found a way to make money on my own, and not in the most traditional way. Beating the casino was my first business. Calling yourself a professional gambler after winning at games of chance for years can be a kind of business for some. There are even books with similar titles. On the other hand, most of us associate business with having employees, with people working for you. But now in 2025, rising businesses seem to be one-person operations. Thanks to AI tools, many tasks we could outsource or hire people for, even online, can be done by machines. So more and more people will rely solely on their own skills. I don't think this is new. Look, almost everything I have done in life, I did alone. I rarely needed others. So I see this trend will likely speed up as tech evolves. I could be wrong, of course, but I keep hearing successful people running their businesses solo, or others who disbanded teams to go alone, save on managing people, and become way more flexible. Based on all that, I consider that I undertook to become a blackjack, betting, and poker player, because business is rooted in undertake, risk to achieve something. Since I took a risk, yeah, my first business to make money was back then at the casino as a player. But I'd say more than a business, it was one way of many ways life offers to make money. At the same time, of course, there are tons of ways to lose money. The dark chapter in my professional life. The biggest losses I have ever had were in the US stock market. Having beaten the competition in betting, the naive me thought I would apply what I had learned in the mecca of capitalism. Only the sharks there were huge and way more numerous. So another way I did business in my weird life was trading stocks and forex. But the game was totally different from what I knew. The result was a spectacular failure and living what my betting and later poker opponents probably had lived against me before. With my account shrinking fast and losing huge amounts, I was slow to realize my mistake. That period became a dark page in my entrepreneurial career. Success in life isn't money. I think failure and success are separated by a very thin line. Sure, I failed to win in the US stock market, but someone else would say I succeeded in not losing everything. On the flip side, someone might look successful to us, yet feel like they have achieved nothing. A nihilist. Because once we achieve something and the brief joy of success fades, we quickly say, it wasn't that big of a deal anyway. Success for me is being at peace with yourself, being happy with what you do and your decisions. Success is not listening to others telling you what to do and doing what you really want when you want. Success for me is being free. And you can be free, living in a society and a family. I don't need to head to the mountains to feel free. Not that that scenario would be bad though. The only requirement for taking big risks in life. I have lived without a steady paycheck for 25 years. There were good years, there were bad years. In entrepreneurship, those ups and downs are part of the game. I remember years I felt on top of the world, squeezing rocks for juice. I remember years living off savings, feeling like the end was near. The stability of a salary never appealed to me, truth be told. I once had the opportunity to become a public employee at a company where I previously worked for in their call center, which has since been privatized. I turned it down flat. But son, my mom said, go in the morning and do what you want in the afternoon. But I was adamant. It was the recklessness of youth and ignorance of danger. Luckily, because only under those conditions can you take massive risks in life. Thankfully, life is full of obstacles and problems. So 25 years went by without a steady paycheck, and I never felt the need to join the system, to quit the entrepreneurship game and enter the rat race. Until I turned 45 last year, and something shifted. Doubts crept in for the first time. Doubts about decisions I made 20 plus years ago. Of course, it didn't come out of nowhere. The AI wake-up call had to hit for me to see the danger to my business. The way that is of necessarily starting to make money differently. I always had in mind, what if something suddenly happens and this stops working? And boom, in 2024, it did. But it wasn't new to me. Everything I have done in life had an end. They banned me from casinos. My betting strategy stopped working, and poker slowly died out. I had been to zero not once, but at least 3 times. So what's one more? Only it's one thing to hit zero at 25, another at 30, and another at 45, especially with a family. But that doesn't mean I'm giving up. On the contrary, every crisis, every obstacle is a chance for progress, for growth, to move forward. And if I think about it, every time a crisis hit, I always found something better. Maybe it'll happen again now. Only I'd like it to be the last time, please. Confidence isn't always good. The best part of running my own life and work, especially when everything is rolling, is confidence through the roof. And how could it not be? Waking up without an alarm, going for a walk without having to be back at a specific time, my phone not ringing for days, my empty calendar, and the most flexible schedule to do what I want when I want. It's hard not to strut then. And when you see people around you with normal jobs that most hate, it's easy to feel good about myself, to think I made the right calls, and get a bit arrogant and cocky now and then. Life is better at the extremes. Life is better when I take risks. That's what I learned from this unorthodox path I have followed so far. I stuck to the beaten path up to a point. I get that everyone's built to do what they do, and it's not everything for everyone. Not everyone can take the risks I take, just like I'm not willing to live someone else's life. What stuck with me, though, is that my strongest memories come from taking a different road in life. I may not have gone to extremes like others, but I didn't stay at the top of the bell curve in the normal distribution either. Plan B is Plan A. There is no backup. You should have finished university and had a degree as a backup. People often say, especially when things aren't going well for me. With a degree, you would have an identity, they told me back when I played blackjack at the casino. They are not wrong. It sounds right. But first, I don't like labels. I'm a chemical engineer. I'm an influencer. I'm a professional gambler. I'm a hustler. Well, what does it matter what we are? What matters is what we do. It's no coincidence they say you are what you do. And second, and far more importantly, when you have a backup, you never take the maximum risk you can. The way I make better decisions. Not following the general life plan has downsides and upsides. Just like showering with the door open. There's something to gain and something to lose. Showering with the door open, I feel more free. I don't feel trapped in the bathroom. I see the sunlight hitting the living room and the shadows of the tree leaves outside swaying in the wind. It all gives me a sense of euphoria and inspires me to come up with even more ideas in the shower, which is already where most of them hit us. Plus, with the door open, less humidity builds up and I can shave without waiting for the mirror to defog. At the same time, there's the risk my wife or kid coming home from school unexpectedly, and I have to rush out dripping to close the door. There's a chance I'll catch a chill being wet. There's a downside that I use more water because I stay under the shower longer. So the biggest upside I have found in the different path I've taken so far is this mindset I apply everywhere and to everything. Seeing it all in numbers, risk and reward, probabilities and odds, which probably helps me make better decisions. Eggs and rules are made to be broken. The last thing I want is to give advice to people. Everyone makes their own decisions in life and does what they think is best. Who am I to tell them what to do? What I'm describing is how I decided to live my life and what results I've gotten. On the other hand, as a dad, I try to bring my daughter to where I am before she reaches the age where she'll have to make similar decisions like herself. So she will know she will have a picture of another life out there, and that not everything in life is predetermined. I want to show her there's another world out there. A world they didn't show me and I found on my own. From there, she will decide what fits her. I would say something similar to a young person feeling lost. There's path X, there's path Y. You can do this, you can do that. Basically, there are infinite ways to live your life. The question is whether you'll sit down and figure out what expresses you, what would make you happy, and how you see your life in 5, 10, or 20 years so you don't look back and regret something you did or didn't. If you know why you are making a decision, it's never the wrong one. Life is a video game. Many measure success with degrees, with credentials. Others measure success with money, with cars and houses. For some, success means power or fame, having a name, and millions of followers. No argument, whatever floats your boat. However each of us keeps score. For me though, success is going unnoticed, having peace in my life, and being free to live how I want. I hope I make it to the end of this awesome game called life. Then my score will be saved on the leaderboard. And luckily, I already know the 3 initials I'll enter. Are you ready, Player One?